Hello, Hoi here. Today we are going to talk about how do you actually value new ideas that are coming into your business. How can you actually build a framework where you can understand the potential value of some ideas for your business or your products, and how do they actually align with your strategy, your values, and your vision. So let's get it done. So once you start a business, and especially once you have released a new product to users, you will start getting new ideas to improve your business or your solutions from many different sources. This can be your end users who can have new ideas on how the solutions could be improved. This can actually be internally, where your own teams are having ideas of where the potential new ways that we could make the solutions better. It can be also things like technology trends, where you see that, okay, there's something now that is coming more and more popular, and we could take advantage in our solutions by integrating in them. So things like nowadays have been already for a while hot, like virtual reality or augmented reality. Of course, there can be many different sources of inspiration. Sometimes it's just recognizing something in some other product or in an advertisement or a TV show, which kind of clicks on something that, hey, maybe this is a direction that we could actually be taking. Maybe this is something that could help us in our journey and help our users bringing more value to our solutions. So let's see how can we define a framework where we can actually get these ideas, analyze them, and see which ones are more important for our solutions. In our first video, we were looking into how actually YouTube builds their vision out of their strategy and their values. And why is this an important exercise is because we are now going to look and recapping how did we define these values and strategy, how could we use this actually to see if some ideas can take us in the direction of our vision. So how can we actually value ideas that are coming from many different sources and see if they actually get us closer to our vision, or actually they take us away from the direction that we would like our solutions to go. So let's recap the case from YouTube. In there we look into their values, we look into their potential strategy, and we found out that most likely the things that matter most for YouTube are video, scalability, creating opportunity for users, sharing information with others, and being able to expression and being able to express as a user or as a creator. So what we want to achieve now is how can we create metrics where we can actually value or measure the weight of an idea against these different KPIs that we had defined. Let's take now the KPI for scalability and how can we actually measure an idea based on on its potential scalability. So when we think about scalability, things that we should be paying attention to is there some kind of administrative scalability? Is it possible to actually get more and more users into our platform? Is it possible to expand it? Is it actually an idea that we are bringing scalable for all of our users, or is it very niche for a certain type of users, which might be something that we don't want? We also had to think about load scalability. So is our infrastructure actually built to support this kind of massive amount of data? When we bring the idea, is it something that is going to collapse, for example, our servers, or is it something that if I am having a transportation service, do I have enough trucks to be able to handle a new contract with a really big provider that is going to require me to maybe 10 times the size of my fleet of trucks? And also we had to look into the cost of this actual scalability, something that actually I can, it is very related obviously to the previous ones, but is it that whenever am I increasing the load of users, am I actually increasing the cost of of providing my services? So ideally, when we talk about scalability, what we want is to be able to expand the amount of users, but still be able to support it in a relatively reasonable, not constant cost, but very low cost compared to the actual amount of users. And ideally, as well, we want that, and cost also is personal, is that expanding and scaling up my services doesn't mean that I had to scale up my organization at the same ratio as I'm scaling up the services. So this is very important when measuring scalability. So what we could do in this case is that there is no easy linear way of measuring scalability, but we could have a way of measuring if an idea is scalable by having the different options and seeing which ones of these options are fulfilled when I actually bring up an idea. If I have a new idea, does it have the potential of reaching out to all my user base or even expanding my user base? Does it actually keep my costs, both in personal and the actual infrastructure, in a reasonable way, or does it scale up organically? And finally, does my solution actually can it handle the loads of more work? So this can be data transactions if you're talking about software solutions, or it can be volumes by, for example, when we were talking about trucks. So in our case, what we could do is that our KPI for scalability will be made out of these 3 sub KPIs, which we know are very tightly related to scalability. So in a very simple scenario, if you want to start simple and not overcomplicate things to analyze your ideas fast, you could just have like tick boxes. So is it scalable? If it doesn't tick of any of these 3 options, it's not scalable. If it ticks one, it's moderately scalable or a little bit scalable. If it ticks a couple of them, then it will be moderately scalable. And if it ticks the 3 of them, it could be then considered as a highly scalable or more scalable or just plainly scalable idea. So we could do the same exercise for all of these KPIs. Try to find out what are the 2, 3, 4 things that help defining this idea that I can measure, this KPI, that I can measure an idea against them. So some of them, bear in mind, are not going to be easy at all to measure. And I would say that for now, it might be better to actually just drop them all together. Some of them actually, sometimes you will be able to measure with a metric, an actual value that you are collecting from your data usage, or that you know from a industry study that the potential is there for your solutions or your ideas to grow. So in those cases, you can actually use some kind of metric, but in most of the cases, it's not going to be that obvious. And to create this framework where you can actually analyze quickly your ideas, I would recommend to try to get your strategic points defined first, get your values defined first, see which ones of these values and which ones of these strategic areas can you take forward and can you somehow measure. Try to define a small amount of sub KPIs on each one of these strategic points or value points. And from there, you can have a rough idea of how much one of these new business ideas could bring value and align you towards your solution. A couple of things to have into consideration when doing this is that please always remember to try to start small. Don't take too many ideas forward. Don't try to measure too many ideas. It's going to be very difficult to analyze all of them, and it's not going to be easy and obvious to see what are the sub-metrics that you could put there. And remember, you want to keep this as a simple exercise. This is not a in-depth study of what it's going to, what is the value that an idea could bring to my business. This will be done, if needed, in the business case part. So this is the first stage. Remember from the previous video that we talked about the idea funnel, idea management funnel. And this was just the first step. How do you filter? How do you have a rough filter on the initial ideas that are coming to you from many different sources, where you can actually define this framework, define these KPIs, where you can take an idea and relatively quickly review this idea and see how it ticks the boxes for all these KPIs that you have defined. And also, one thing to bear in mind is that pretty much no idea is going to tick all the boxes except your vision. So your vision obviously should tick all the boxes, because if it doesn't tick all the boxes, something was not done very well when defining the strategy and when defining the values. But when you come with new ideas, so if you think, for example, if YouTube decides to start, I don't know, some kind of blogs and allow blogging into their platform, and I don't mean vlog, but blogs, old school typing, what could be the potential for them of this idea? Most likely, well, it's not going to tick very well with the video, and potentially it's not going to measure very well against some other KPIs. Remember that most of the ideas are going to be varying a lot on how do they measure against the different KPIs. Once you have measured your ideas against these KPIs, this doesn't mean that the idea you should just drop it. It might be that in some cases the idea is scoring relatively well, but it's maybe not the right time. It might be that later on you can benefit of this idea. So here there's two options. Obviously, there might be clearly ideas that don't align at all with your vision. Those ones, you can just get them out of the way. But the ones that you actually think that you maybe don't have a very good idea, or you cannot estimate properly if this is going to be a good idea to implement or not, the best is that to put them in a backlog where you can revisit this idea later on, because it might be that just the timing is not the correct one, and time will come when this idea is actually more valuable and it can be then revisited and potentially actually implemented in your solution. So what do you think? How do you value ideas in your company? Is there an easier way of doing this in your point of view, or is there better ways of doing it? Do you think that this could work? Remember, the idea is just to have something that it's rough, where I can filter and take away the ideas that are not going to get me closer to my vision, and just try to concentrate in the later stages of the funnel, where I can actually measure if this idea is a good idea for my vision or not, and how do I actually get it to move forward. So remember, if you like this content and would like to see more, please subscribe and like the video. We will see you in the next one. Stay safe.